For those who don't know, I have a PhD in chemistry and I have a channel focused on gaming and collectibles. In this video, I want to look at something that game collectors are going crazy over right now, and I want to take a look at the actual chemistry of it. In this video, we're going to talk about game protectors. Now, these are plastic game protectors that they have for all different kinds of games and all different kinds of consoles. In this video, we're going to focus primarily on using these cases for the disc-based systems that have plastic cases with shrink wrap around them. This overview is not really relevant if you have an open box game, especially if it's cardboard, because obviously you can get some serious damage to that. But as far as game-based plastic cartridges with a seal, this is what we're going to be talking about today. Just to start off, we're going to talk about the component of plastic that this is compared to what the chemical is that makes up shrink wrap, and just exactly what these cases protect compared to the shrink wrap itself. So for the game cases, we're looking at polyethylene terephthalate, otherwise known as PET. PET is a more robust polymer that is used for archival preservation for things in military and libraries, etc. It's resistant to moisture, has good chemical resistance, it's scratch resistant, and it's highly transparent, which is why it's so utilized within the game collecting community. However, it's not biodegradable. Another thing is, if kept at higher temperatures, the actual transparency of this polymer could start fogging up due to the composition of the polymer changing at high temperatures. So you need to make sure that you keep it between 50 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which should be fairly easy for anyone unless it's kept in direct sunlight or in a hotter area such as Arizona or somewhere towards the equator. One thing of note is that in the production of PET, they sometimes have antimony, which is an element on the periodic table which can be toxic in high amounts. One thing with these game cases are that they're produced very cheaply, and a lot of them come from China where there's not as many regulations, so you do definitely have to be careful when you get these game cases, and I would recommend just washing your hands after you're handling them with your bare hands. So now that I've presented all the information about this PET polymer which is used for the game cases, let's talk about shrink wrap. So the most commonly used shrink wrap for video games is polyvinyl chloride, or PVC. They call it shrink wrap, but it's really just PVC polymer. It's thicker than saran wrap, but it's still thinner than these plastic cases. Now that we really understand both these polymers, let's compare and contrast them for a few notable things. Firstly, for temperature, they're fairly comparable since there's going to be no temperatures that anyone keeps the games at that are above 212 degrees, which is the melting point for PVC, and it's 500 for PET. As far as water goes, default shrink wrap from the factory is going to keep your game dry as long as you don't have rips and tears in the plastic. So if that's the case, then you can use this for this type of game. Or if you want to keep loose copies of games, I would recommend this as well. But I wouldn't use it for fully sealed games. As far as dirt and dust goes, both of these types of plastics are going to completely cover your game from dirt and dust. So again, they're extremely comparable. For structural integrity, for games that are more solid, I don't think you really need the external case. Obviously for cardboard type games, this is really good structural integrity, and even for some PS4 games and newer generation games, the plastic that makes up the game case can be a bit flimsy, so having extra structural integrity around the outside can be beneficial. Now, as far as price goes, obviously the factory seal is free if you had bought your game factory sealed, and these cases may cost you around 50 cents to $1 a piece. So the external cases really should only be used whenever you need to protect extra. But now let's also evaluate the environmental aspect. So if you buy a sealed game, it's already sealed. There's nothing you can really do besides not throw it into a landfill. However, these external cases may have plastic around the outside. The plastic of the case itself is non-biodegradable. You might just throw it out into the environment. There can be contamination on the outside that will cause damage if put into the water system. In general, just think about creating excessive waste, especially if you're not going to use these or if you're only going to use them for a short period of time. Producing plastics may be cheap at this point in time, but getting rid of them afterwards in this culture of everyone throwing everything out and always buying the latest, greatest thing is a serious problem So if we can aim to minimize that as much as possible, I think we'll be much better off in the future. One more factor that I forgot to mention is sun damaging your games. So having the factory shrink wrap on there as well as an external case, if put into direct sunlight, these PET cases are not going to really protect the sun from damaging the games. Again, both are very comparable. So realistically, you're looking at an aesthetic choice and uniformity that makes this a piece of your collection and not really from the safe aspect. Is there anything that would prevent you from taking your precious games and putting them in a cardboard box padded with bubble wrap and seal it up and put it away? The answer is no. From a display angle, people go crazy over these because they're translucent so people can see their games. They get the understanding that it will protect them more, which is debatable. And now before you start saying, Schnick, well, if you have shrink wrap that is ripped or something like that, yeah, you might want to bubble wrap your game or put a case like this, but I don't think it's mandatory to put around every single game. As long as you have a collection in a neat and tidy way, I don't think you're really going to have very much damage. If your living space has a flood or a fire or something like that, you're much better with insurance for your game collection. I hope you've enjoyed this video. My idea here was to just throw out some chemistry facts at you and really start thinking about what these game cases really are and whether they do anything for you. And just have you think about before you buy hundreds and thousands of these, if you really need them and what your final goal is with them. I think a lot of people right now see other people are using them, so they think, oh, this is perfect. If you're a game collector, you need to have these. But I really don't think that's the case. So just some food for thought. I wanted to drum up some conversation between the game collecting community as well as sealed game collectors. Obviously, this is not accounting for graded games that are sealed in a much thicker plastic. These are really purely aesthetic and make you think that your games are protected, but realistically, they're not doing much of anything. I really appreciate if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to focus on videos that are related to science and game collecting that are unlike anything that's been seen on YouTube before. So if that interests you, be sure to check out my channel. If you have any other ideas for science-related game collecting videos, be sure to leave it in the comments, and I'll definitely take it into consideration. And until next time, guys, peace out.